Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Blue Screen Brothers. And as you might have noticed, I'm speaking English for it's the first time for quite a while. And that's because I'm here live at Redmond, Microsoft HQ, for the Microsoft MVP Summit. And with me, I have two of the three authors from the book that came out last October. And hey, Morten.
Hey, Alexander.
Hey. So give us a brief introduction of yourself.
Yeah, my name is Morten. I'm a Microsoft MVP in Windows 365. I work as a consultant, have been done that for 10 years plus now. I work at a company called Apento in Denmark. And my focus areas are around Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop. So I've been working with those technologies since they came out. And before that, I went into RDS, some server management, client management also, but my main focus are AVD and Windows 365 now.
And we also have Sandeep here from Corp, right?
Yes.
Yes, so give the listeners a brief introduction.
Absolutely. I'm Sandeep, and I've been doing desktop virtualization and related technologies for almost 19 years now.
Ooh, did that exist? What was it called back then, 19 years ago?
Terminal services.
Terminal services. So
yeah.
This is not something new. It's just rebranded with a
framing. I gotta keep my job, right?
That's true.
Rebrand, redo the same thing again and again. But no, yeah. I think I started off making some contributions to NT4 terminal server. A lot of your listeners probably know this, and there's a lot of tech there, which really fascinated me. So I got attracted to that, plus a lot of storage, a lot of the user experiences and all that. And as things progressed, this really felt like home for me, where we kind of touch every technology, right from the user clicking a button all the way to what's happening on the server, the protocol, the authentication. So and we've been inventing new stuff every few years as the technology changed, as the needs of the users changed. You remember Azure Remote App?
Yeah, we've done some stories on that.
Yeah, so we did that, and that was way ahead of its time. A big reason why we were like, okay, let's go and reinvent something that matches now, not many, many years in future. And then, of course, we brought in RDMI, which became AVD, which became Windows Virtual Desktop, then Azure Virtual Desktop. And then, of course, as we looked through things, Windows 365 made a lot of sense because customers and users were like, Microsoft, looks like you now know what you're doing. So why didn't you do it all? And then, of course, SaaS became a thing, and we made Windows 365. So yeah, it's quite a journey, and working with a lot of amazing folks, especially all the MVPs. There's so many, I've worked with them, and for so many years now, it feels like a family. So a big thanks to the MVPs for sure. I really love this time of the year. And then this podcast is like, wow, I get to talk to MVPs about MVPs. Awesome, let's do it.
That was almost like a loop, but I find it quite interesting and fascinating. You guys really wrote the book on Windows 365. How did this get together? It was like you, Sandeep, said that. I'm thinking of writing a book. Is anyone interested in sacrificing some time and do co-writing with me, or was it as Morten's idea?
I actually think started Christian, which is not here, by the way.
Yeah, he didn't have time to prepare, so he skipped.
Yeah, so we decided to send the best guys to this podcast.
Yeah.
No, I actually think it was Christian started the whole thing, reaching out to me, said he had this idea. He knew that I do a lot of Windows 365 early adoption of customers, so I both architect the solution, implement the solution, helping the customers how to drive it forward into the businesses. And I've done some community stuff with Christian before, so he reached out to me, and I think after, I don't know, maybe a week, we decided we need another one here because this is going to be a big job. And Christian told me that he knew Sandeep because you're working on the same team, right? And I actually think that's how we got together.
Yeah, behind the scenes, Christian and I have been talking. I've always wanted to write the story from an end user point of view, and for a long time, I was leading the team for all end user experiences, which is clients, protocol, all of that. Windows 10 multi-session was a big thing. It was my baby. I created that, and big reception for that. So I was like, yeah. So there is something here that can be told. A lot of folks, Microsoft has done a great job with IT training and documentation and material and all of it. And a lot of the IT folks are really smart. So we tell them a little, they understand everything. It's like telling one line and the PhD in the area knows everything about it. But then end users, well, I think there was a gap. And with a lot of us going to work wherever in the world, working remotely, suddenly there was this huge gap where, for example, the network routers were not set up the right way, so things would be bad. And everything became IT's problem. And that's when I was thinking, hey, I think I want to tell this story. And how do I do it? Blog posts, and you just don't read blog posts. So who do we tell the story to? And then I talked to Christian. He was like, oh, let's I'm thinking of a book. You can contribute to that from this point of view. And a lot of IT read, because IT also is trying to find this at the same time, which is, what is this remote work? How does it work? We don't control every network. Can somebody help us understand? And that's where this book was like, okay, here is a baseline. It doesn't answer everything, but here is a baseline you could start with to say, okay, now I get 40% of what end user goes through. The other 60 is unique to my company, to my situation, and I go do it. So that's where the book was born, and we wrote it all remote.
Yeah, we did. I think this is actually one of the biggest points on my list is what is Windows 365 and who's it for? When Windows 365 launched, I think I spent most of the year after to tell customers what the difference was between AVD and Windows 365, because it was not really that long since the two product released, right, from each other, and there was a bit of confusion. And
I'm still confused myself.
Yeah, but I will teach.
I'm sorry,
but then again, I'm a blue screen brother, so we can't help it.
Yeah, so maybe you just need to read the book.
Oh yeah, good one.
Yeah. So that was really a good driving point for me to go into this book. Is that I'm spending all my time learning customers about what's the differences, what they can use it for, what should you pick over the other for solution. And I think it was really, really cool to be part of that, being one of the first to really put out the words to the public about, here's our take on how it looks like in the landscape right now.
But then again, you have Microsoft Learn. Why do you need the book?
That's a great question. And in fact, that's where we started. And we said, okay, so do we, like Christian and I were talking about this, like, do we rewrite Microsoft Learn? Do we just do that? And then we realized it's about the goal of each one is very different. So the goal of Microsoft Learn is to be like a modular documentation where anybody could take, for example, when you deliver a Windows 365 package or something to an end user, they have the Windows OS on there. They have to take care of updates and all that stuff. Like, they have to understand manageability, all of it. There's Microsoft 365 on it. They have to understand completely separate documentation of what has to happen there. There is AAD setup. They have to understand how that happens. They have to understand how OneDrive works. And they have to understand how networking works. We have Stern and Turn, which is, relays, traffic going over UDP over these relays and all. There's no one place we could solve this and do it, and that's what the book does, which is a whole package of, and here's what end-to-end this is. And this literally our goal was, can somebody literally read the book and create the most basic yet advanced, right? The most baseline of advanced Windows 365 deployment out there, plus make some more changes. I think we achieved that because Microsoft Learn, we spend a lot of time, actually, like I spend a lot of time learning so many things, and I was thinking, oh my God, are we going to ask IT to learn all these things? I was thinking about disaster recovery, BCDR, Azure Site Recovery. All these things had to be learned by people. And how do we make it simpler in the context? Because Azure Site Recovery is amazing, right? It's built for a lot of stuff. But how do you bring it in the context of Windows 365, in the context of end user computing? And that was what the book was trying to achieve.
Yeah.
It's almost like a cookbook here. I can see that there's a lot of these. There is like Microsoft Learns is the kitchen. It's got all these ingredients, while you're the guys making the lasagna.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely want to make more of a storytelling. You know, for me, Microsoft Learn is really great to find information that I need right away to try to understand one specific thing. But I don't go to Microsoft Learn to learn about Windows 365, Azure Desktop, or SharePoint Online, to be honest. I don't know what SharePoint Online is, but that's
I think I've heard of it. The SharePoint Online. Yeah.
But it's another place for another MPs to talk about. So for me, it was really important when we added stuff into the book. It was our story that we were telling, that how we understood it, how we think that you should understand it and implement it in your businesses, or a recommendation that we think. So the way that we write stuff is, well, this is not how it's recommended from Microsoft. Well, we can do some recommendation from Microsoft that we also agree with, but if I disagree with the recommendation from Microsoft, I can say this is the recommendation, but you have to be aware of this, this, and this, and therefore you might be needing to do this solution that I use at my customers. So that was one of the biggest point for me, at least, to get into the book, to make it not just a copy-paste from Microsoft Learn, because we have a lot of factual things in the books, like turn relay. You know, we cannot reinvent turn relay when we're writing the book, so there are some facts that are also present in
Water is still wet. Breaking
exactly.
news. Water is still wet.
Exactly. But I think the important thing is to get it out right, to the right personas that we want to reach with the book. So and I'm really surprised how hard it really is. To be honest, you know, I have done a lot of blog posts back in the days. I'm very technical, so I just like to get right deep into the stuff. But when you're writing a book, you have to tell a story. It has to be, you know, one united book. So there was a lot of work into that.
You're still talking about how to make a lasagna. You need to do the steps and put all the work. You could be a good chef, but you still need the recipe cookbook.
But sometimes you have to peel off all the lasagna to fill some new in, because you burn something.
Because you're not copying anyone else. You're making something new. So you're kind of pave a new road. So, but as I understood that something special happened to the book. It's been added to the Microsoft library.
Yep.
What does that actually mean? Could I go to any community library and borrow the book?
No. You have to be here in Redmond to get the book, if I'm not mistaken.
No, actually, you know, it's actually, from my point of view, even being a full-time employee of Microsoft, it's a privilege that a book that I'm an author of is part of a library, very esteemed. So Microsoft Library is probably one of the most esteemed libraries from a technical book library point of view. And for employees around the world, Microsoft employees can request books, and the library here can ship it. So I mean, it is available to everyone who is a Microsoft employee or is associated with Microsoft, like vendors and all of them as well. But yeah, it's a big deal. We spoke when the book came out. We spoke to them like, we will evaluate if it is a good book or not and get back to you. And I was like, I'm not concerned about that, because we had already heard very good feedback from customers and all. So I was like, okay, fine. But when it really happened, and Morten sent an email to us saying, hey, look at that, I got this. I'm like, wow. I couldn't believe myself. I read that. I didn't tell this to you, Morten, but I think your message, I read that like 5 times. Like, to really believe and pinch myself to say, okay, this is really happening. It is a...
I'm just spoiling there. That's the same thing we MVP does every time we get the renewal.
True.
So, did this happen?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's a big deal. And I mean, my kid, my daughter, she's so proud of me. I mean, that brings me more joy and proud that, wow, you know, your kids feel proud. My young one is 1.5 year old. He has no idea, but my daughter, she's like, wow, Dad, your book got in all the best. I'm proud of you. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it happened 2 days ago. So we
Yeah.
was at the library 2 days ago, and it was a really big experience. I mean, getting in there, see, there's a lot of great books already, and now we have one on the shelf, and um, it just makes me really proud, to be honest. I mean, we have put in a lot of work. I mean, I think the initial thought started back in late November 2022. Yeah. And we finished the last chapter, I don't know, maybe a month before the release. So,
And the release was October of 23.
End of September.
Yeah,
Yeah,
end of September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it took about 10 months, let's say 9 months of writing.
Yeah, from thoughts to finish, right? So, yeah.
And then another 6 months to get kind of paired into the Microsoft library.
Mhm.
So someone needs to read faster, because it seems like this was a good book. So you used 9 months of writing and producing, and there are things that could be problematic because the product is evolving, where they're like, you had some issues like, we just written this chapter and all of a sudden we need to rewrite something because there's something new being developed.
So I think it doesn't really matter if it's a book or if it's a blog post or a video. Things are evolving technologies, and we also had this in our consideration that the GUI changes. Maybe some of the product that we're writing about no longer will be there, and new products will come in. But it was really important for us that the core of the book, that people understood what is the book about, what messages are we trying to get out there. So that was really important, that we got every chapter that incorporated that. It just wasn't waste of time in like 2 years. So you can still read the book, and yes, maybe the GUI has changed, but you still get the point that we're trying to explain to you about what you need to consider in your businesses, what you can use the product for, and of course, what's the differences between AVD and Windows 365.
I think that's a good point for everyone listening into this, because of course the book will be somewhat obsoleted when it comes to the GUI and what you're naming stuff, but the grasp and the understanding of what it is, that is irreplaceable from the book.
Yeah.
And
So a thing, I think we had kind of not a bet really, but kind of a guessing game going, like what percentage of the book will be obsolete the day it is released? Because it's hard copy, right? It's not soft copy that just updates itself automatically. And in my mind, I thought it'll be like 20% of the book. Turned out only one page, literally one page was obsolete.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that is because we automated something. It's obsolete not because it's not doable. It's still doable, but it's just one single button right now. And that's the evolution. But as we went through, all of us grew up reading books. And the books that really stayed with us are is the knowledge. And we are all technologists. A lot of things at a very core level, networking at its core doesn't change. BCDR at its core doesn't change. What we do, the data, the way we do it might change a little bit, the core of it. So I was looking through some of that. That was my goal to a great extent, to talk about the core of things like Morten was saying. And I think 60 to 70% of the book is about the concepts. They're durable, everlasting. There are screenshots of how you do it and all that. Those could change, but that is much, much, much lesser. So if there is somebody who is brand new to the virtualization side of the world, and now, of course, we're not, as Microsoft, we don't call Windows 365 as desktop virtualization. We call it Cloud PC, which is, it does more because VDI, Cloud VDI, there are very less control with the user, but in this case, the user can do things like reset, reboot, and all that stuff. So we're like, okay, somebody brand new, because it's TAM expansive, the product, somebody brand new can take our book, understand the concepts in a very simple terms, but very core to their like understanding, and be able to do things, and most of it will stay the same year after year after year.
Because that's a very good point. Understanding what it actually is and what it is not. So although it is desktop virtualization, if you go into Intune, where you basically deploy the Windows 365, if I'm not totally mistaken, and you go to Entra ID and you go to Microsoft Graph, you're going to see that the make and manufacturer is Cloud PC. So you can use distinctive dynamic groups in Entra ID and target cloud PCs as an entity, so that you could do automation and deploy applications and do policies that is specified for these new virtual desktop experience, but they're not virtual desktops. So understanding what it is and what it isn't is probably something that could be useful to get the grasp on from that book. And we talked about who the book is for. Anyone who needs to know the difference between virtualization, AVD, Windows 365, and all in between. But who is Windows 365 for?
As a product?
Yeah.
Yeah. So different scenarios you're thinking of? Yeah. Well, as a consultant, I see lots of different scenarios. So we have, of course, moving into a hybrid world. So I'm seeing more and more companies trying to embrace the user with working from home, working from their own device. I even see companies saying to the user, well, you get to choose your own device, and we just put a cloud PC on top of that, so you can have your enjoyable moment with your hardware that you love. Personally, I'm a Mac user. I only use my Mac for personal stuff, and then I use my cloud PC for every corporate stuff that I use for my customers. I also see a shift in how that we are thinking about providing a high performance computing to end users. So instead of switching out the hardware that a lot of companies are doing, people are moving around in different departments all the time. Their job change and their needs also change. So being able to easy to provide them with different types of cloud PCs that they need to do to get their task done is something that I see more and more companies going to do, and we're also seeing a lot of increase in frontline workers actually. That people are able, or the customers are able to provide them a frontline license, so they're able to get free cloud PCs on one license. Of course, only one of the users are able to use it, but that way they can really embrace the cloud PC technology to frontline workers that really wasn't possible before in the same personal way.
Yeah. That's an amazing story, and just all the potential scenarios, all from you using a Mac, or people, I've heard cases where people left their PC at home or their Mac at home, and they just kind of connect their Samsung device into a big monitor at the office, and they start using Windows directly from their phone with a keyboard and mouse. Mm-hmm. So there are so many scenarios that really is out there for people to do, but tell me a bit more about the frontline workers, because that's something rather new.
Yeah, I think it's a couple. Yeah, that's rather new. Yeah. So the idea with the frontline workers is that if you imagine a service desk, you have a bunch of people working maybe in Europe, maybe in US, and maybe in Asia, and they are in different time zones, and they can share a license, but they get their own personal cloud PCs as well. So they don't have to go into a shared environment. They don't have to talk to IT when something breaks, because they can still resolve their own issues, and it's just really giving them a flexible options. And I also talk to customers that are looking into, so the service is a common scenario, but I also talk with customers about having people on the floor in warehouses that they want to use a frontline license to connect from an iPad to start up application to control the warehouse and stuff like that. And I really think that we're seeing a big opportunity here to move more people to utilize the cloud with frontline licensing.
I think I saw, and there's another grasp here, because we're at Microsoft and you guys make PCs. I think I saw Christian wearing a Toshiba Satellite, one of the 1998 versions of laptops. Mm-hmm. He hasn't got a new one, but there's this key to having a high performance device in the cloud, or make sure that you could purchase one standardized device to all of your employees, but those who need something different, all of a sudden you can enable them to do that.
Absolutely.
Is that a business use case you see being a frequent demand here?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are three kinds of such things. One is folks want to get the exact same device, get buy in bulk, do it once, don't ever have to worry about it, and such. Don't have to worry about one department, finance department to design department, right? Then there are people who already have spent that money, they want to continue doing it, but they can't keep up with the costs. Everything is so expensive now. And how do they keep up with that? And then the third is they're like, we don't want to buy anything. You bring your own device and we will manage it through this. So Intune has great job with that, and we are able to do that. So with cloud PCs, that is the advantage where people can say, okay, I don't have to worry about procurement. I don't have to worry about today, right? At the start of the financial year, I don't have to think about it. On demand, you come. In fact, some of our customers have gone ahead and even created their own like internal website where the users can go and select, I want this, this, this. And they select, say, go. And then within 10 minutes, they have their cloud PC ready for them. They can connect and they can size up, size down. And this blew people's mind. Like, oh my God. Okay, now we're really talking about a PC in the cloud, right? Cloud PC, our goal is not to replace a PC that people would really need locally. It's about the people who did not have access to PC and they wanted to use PC because, real work gets done on a PC, and they want to do it from anywhere because people are going remote. And how do they do it? So this was amazing. So you talked about Samsung. With Motorola, we also did even more work at the Android OS level. So we made a bunch of changes there where now you take a Motorola device, plug it into a USB-C monitor, it connects directly to your cloud PC. No additional buttons required.
Ooh.
And actually, there's a lot of companies that are giving people laptop just to log in, check emails, but they all get a phone. So imagine just giving the phone, and they also have the laptop in the phone.
Yes,
Right.
and now we're talking green IT as well.
Yeah.
Like the ecology in as well. Because why should you purchase a PC to a nurse or to anyone working at a hospital that only needs to check in on very few things every now and then? You don't need to bring them a full-time PC, but if you were giving them a frontline worker license so that they can use a full, like you said, real work is done on a PC, then they can get this experience without having to purchase more stuff.
Yep. And to that extent, actually, we are doing a lot of work with companies that are in hospitals and a lot of other places with redirection of devices, smart card scanners and QR code scanners and all those things, so they get local experience. So a large part of what I do in my day job is ensuring we're able to deliver local experience coming from the cloud.
What about the users that worry? We have hospital records, we have patient records. Is this being processed in the cloud, or is it just the PC staying in the cloud and accessing stuff you already own elsewhere?
It's both, actually, because a big part of anything we build at Microsoft is to go through the scrutiny of compliance and talk about GDPR, talk about HIPAA, and so on. We absolutely make sure we go and meet those. Otherwise, customers will not use. They want their protection, they want privacy, they want their safety. So it's a mix of both. We have customers who have brought their own, on-premises data that is there, and then the customers who are on the path of migrating petabytes of data. And these medical images and all that can be GBs, terabytes as well. And they are moving that to the cloud. And the good thing about Azure Migrate is the user or the cloud PC doesn't need to know where to go. It's magical. And you just get your data. It used to be very slow, start of the month or start of the quarter, end of the quarter when migration has finished. Access like that. Why? Because your data and your cloud PC are literally on the same Azure data center.
So you can understand where the data source is.
It's fast. It's extremely fast. So with Cloud PC, you get your M365 storage right there. So OneDrive is in the same data center. SharePoint is in the same data center. It is extremely fast. And in our book, we talk about that. How can people select? How do they know where their OneDrive data is? And how can they select the Cloud PC location to be there? And as a part of technology, we make sure the protocol is so good. There's UDP we are doing with Stun and Turn, where the connection feels almost real time. We have seen people who have gone from 30 or 50 millisecond latency down to 15. And my house, after I get from my house to Quincy, which is where my cloud PC is, and back is about 200 miles each way. And I get 8 millisecond latency.
8 milliseconds.
I mean, UDP was a big milestone for the. Or I think it was a big milestone. I'm not saying inside of Microsoft, but for me, UDP was a big milestone for Windows 365 and AVD also, of course.
Yep.
It was much needed, and I mean, even if you're not on UDP, and you can still feel it's almost real time, but at UDP, just add that top layer.
Mm-hmm.
This is so interesting because it's not that long ago since we talked about 15 milliseconds latency from the PC to the monitor. So the latency from your PC to the monitor used to be longer just a few years ago.
Yep.
And if I'm not mistaken, some of this technology is also being shared with the Xbox team. I know we can't talk all about that. It's all secret stuff that happens in the back. But for those who haven't tried the Xbox Access on their Samsung TV or any modern TV or from their Android phone, just try to hook up a remote connect and see what Sandeep might or might not have a play with.
Yeah, what I can share is, xCloud. So that's the advantage of technology coming from Microsoft. We have a very strong one Microsoft culture, not just from people point of view, but also technology point of view. So we absolutely try to learn from each other, share as much as we can. My gaming, I have like multiple Xboxes at home, but now...
Of course you have. I have a PlayStation.
You have a Mac and you have a PlayStation.
Yep.
No, you're not going to tell. No.
But yeah, my gaming has completely moved to the cloud. I do xCloud. I love the Game Pass. Absolutely love it. And when I play this, and then for me, the exciting thing is when I use the controller, I can actually take the feedback to the team and say, oh, can we make this even faster? I know under NDA, the MVP's got a glimpse of some of this today. Obviously, we cannot talk in this podcast.
All right.
Right?
I see Christian here is starting to find a bat here. All right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so there is more stuff we'll probably be able to share later this year. But yeah, going from customers who care about speed to customers who care about privacy, talking about UDP to screen capture protection and all that. We are absolutely thinking about all of those things.
So if you were to select one favorite feature, Morten, what is the favorite feature in Windows 365 that you find mind-blowing, that everyone should need to know about?
One feature, that was pretty hard. I would say, I don't know if this is a feature, it's probably not, but I will say it anyway. So the personal experience. I really think that's the one that really got me. Of course, the IT admin stuff, simplified, unified management with Microsoft Intune, that's all nice. But the end user experience that you are able to have your Cloud PC fully personal, you're able to do actions, resize, troubleshooting. I think the troubleshooting is really, really cool. And you can rename your Cloud PC and restart and stuff like that. Stuff that you wasn't able to do before with traditional VDI or even cloud VDI, because it's a different concept, right? So that is my favorite thing, and that's also one of the most important thing I try to tell the customers. Well, now you get your own personal Cloud PC, you must learn how to use it. You have to remember to teach your users that they're able to help themselves now, just like on their physical device. Because every time that they have gotten any cloud, or not cloud, but virtualized that they could log into, they're like, oh, IT will fix this. We can't do anything ourselves. Well, now you can. Mm-hmm. And that's really powerful.
You mentioned you had some kids that read your book and got access to that. So I feel that I'm going to ask which of your kids that's your most favorable kid, but I'm not going to go there. But what is your favorite feature in Windows 365, Sandeep?
Morten already took one of my favorites. But, at the core of things, I spent a lot of time rebuilding stuff, breaking things, and like my PC is always souped up to the max. And my favorite is resize.
Resizing.
Yeah, I'm a very impatient person. Earlier, I have to go on Amazon or Best Buy and buy a graphics card and wait for weeks for it to arrive. And especially during the time off where a lot of people were mining, not time off, during the people like.
So you're one of those people?
Yeah, of course I was mining and all that, but not on Cloud PC. I got to learn, right? Of course, I had a Bitcoin miner and all that. I was learning how the whole tech was working, but we digress. But I have to do that, and that takes a week or more, and then I have to find time from my office work to go to just 2 weeks before I could upgrade my local device. Cloud PC, I just go click a button, click a couple of options, and then it's resized, scaled up. I do a lot of stuff, have fun. Then I say, okay, fine, I should not be paying so much money. Or my company says, what are you? I'm like, okay, fine, I'll scale it down. My project is done, I can scale it down.
Yeah, and what company did you work for again?
I don't know. This is a small company called Microsoft.
Yeah.
Anyways. So yeah, that's my favorite feature. You click, 10 minutes later, the PC is your upscale PC is ready. It's like amazing. I love it. Unbelievable.
So I hear that there's a lot. Christian is looking at me here for reasons I don't know. He has his mean eyes that we were almost discovering NDA stuff here or revealing them. But I feel that if there were a version 2 of the book, how is it to work together writing that book? Different time zone, different culture. How does that dynamic work? And of course, will there be a second version of the book?
Well, let's start with writing the book itself.
Yeah.
What's fascinating was the first time the 3 of us met in person was at the launch of the book. So we spent a good 9 months 9 to 10 months, completely virtual writing. And I was thinking to myself, wow, this is literally what Cloud PC is. It is virtual. You can connect from anywhere in the world. And guess what? The book is also written the same way. So I was very proud of ourselves for that reason. Talking about the next edition of the book, it's not really about the if, it's about when. And as you mentioned earlier, the technology is moving so fast. This is probably one of the fastest growing in terms of features and all that technologies at Microsoft. And keeping the core of why we wrote the book alive is to tell the story, to make sure people understand. We want to make sure that we keep that journey up. There's a lot that we are yet to talk about. Windows app was one of the things that came up right after the book. Of course, it was under NDA. I was the PM my team and I were responsible for delivering Windows app. I couldn't write about it. He didn't know about it because we're completely under wraps. But yeah, so that is a big thing that we'll write. GPU SKUs is another one that we'll have to write about and tell about why and what and all that, right? Keep that going.
And also we're also seeing customers getting hands on the product, and sometimes the customers come back and say, hey, this is really cool, but can we maybe try to do this with it? Having some new ideas. Also, helping me to be inspired in the product that I'm using all the day. So maybe we will see some new types of scenarios that we will talk about, new core stuff that we will add to the existing. And I think the one with working together across time zones is a funny one. I think there's 9 hours or so. Sometimes when we have to make some big decisions on what's going into the book, it was fun because at the very up to the launch of the book, we have written a lot of pages and just switching back and forth with all the pages all the time. What are going in, what are not going in, what's on the NDA, what's going to release, stuff like that. Because we cannot release the book if anything is not public, of course. So that was quite challenging. And when something big decision had to be made, it took maybe 2-3 days because we're switching back and forth. Texting each other and having meetings. So
and the other thing is Morten had a young one right then, and I also had my younger one was born just a few months old when I started the book. I think Morten and I shared that, where we went through the whole thing as new fathers.
And having a full-time job.
And having a full-time job.
So writing the book was just pure pleasure, right? So a lot of the a lot of the night times went with that, to be honest. Yeah.
So when reading the book, keep in mind of Sandeep and Morten's work balance.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely no work-life balance here.
Yeah, and a big shout out to the whole family for the support. Also, a big shout out to all the technical reviewers that we had.
Yep.
They helped make the book what it is today. So a big shout out to them.
Yeah, and as I like, for me, a huge, it feels like a huge accomplishment because we have a lot of customer meetings, and it goes one of two ways. One, they come to us and say that, hey, we read the book. This page or this section really helped solve the problem. Like, wow, thank you. Or the other one is they come and say, hey, we have this problem and we want to do this. And I'm like, oh yeah, go to page number 237. You have the answer there. And they go open it and like, oh yeah, that's it. That's all we want. And we say, okay, fine, So the book is really, really helping the community, helping our partners and customers. And all the hard work we put in feels so fulfilling.
There was a time where, you once you go in, you cannot back out. But if I could sometimes, But well, we did complete it, and after after we completed, I have to be totally honest. My initial thought was, I'm never going to do this again. That was my initial thought when everything was done. But when the book was released, I think everything just exploded in me of pure joy, because what we have created is now on public, and the responses that we got from people was just amazing. So, and we help inspiring people. I think that's why it's not an if, but a win.
A win.
Yeah.
So, big follow-up to our listeners. Get the book and give a big shout-out for Morten and Sandeep and Christian, although he couldn't be here. So thank you so much for your time, and I cannot wait to get a hold of the book when we're visiting the library in a few minutes.
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us here.